My girlfriend said, I lied about my past. So what? I said, okay, hired a PI, found the truth, and left. 3 days later, she had a breakdown. The truth then departed. 3 days later, without a single word, she was admitted due to a breakdown. I'm a 31-year-old man, a project manager by profession. My life unfolds as a series of Gantt charts, risk assessments, and critical path analyses. I find comfort and predictability in understanding all the variables. My relationship with Sandra, 29, seemed like the most stable, well-resourced endeavor of my life. We had been together for 2 years, sharing an apartment for one. We were constructing something solid, or so I believed. Sandra's personal background was a significant part of her allure. She presented herself as someone from a stable, loving, upper-middle-class home. Her father, she stated, was a respected surgeon, and her mother, a university lecturer. She had attended a reputable private college, navigated a single difficult breakup with a man who became a possessive stalker, and was now establishing a career in marketing. She appeared refined, captivating, and inherently secure. The first discrepancy in our shared narrative surfaced about 3 months ago, a minor inconsistency at a charity gala. She was sharing an anecdote about her surgeon father when a nearby neurosurgeon politely inquired about his hospital affiliation. I noticed a fleeting hint of panic in Sandra's eyes before she masked it with a bright laugh. Oh, he's retired now. A complete golf enthusiast. You wouldn't have crossed paths. It sounded plausible, but it contradicted a story she had told me a month prior about him still managing a few complex cases. When I gently brought this up later, she dismissed it. It's just easier than explaining his complicated semi-retirement schedule, Paul. It was a clumsy excuse, but I accepted it. The project, as I saw it, was still on schedule. The second fissure was more significant. She wore a vintage-style gold locket constantly. It was, she insisted, a cherished family heirloom passed down from her great-grandmother. One evening, as I helped her untangle the delicate chain, my fingers brushed against a tiny inscription on the clasp. To my A, forever M. Sandra and Paul? No A, no M. Who's A? I asked, keeping my tone light. The atmosphere immediately grew cold. It belonged to my great-aunt, she said, her voice a little too sharp. Before my grandmother received it. An M? Her husband, she snapped, pulling away. It's a family piece. Can we not scrutinize it? On its own, it was nothing, a believable explanation. But when combined with the story about her father, it felt like another piece of information that didn't align with the established pattern. The risk assessment for our entire relationship suddenly began signaling a warning. The following evening, I initiated a formal review. We sat on our charcoal gray sofa, the one she had chosen. I didn't raise my voice. I wasn't accusatory. I framed it as a straightforward request for clarification. Sandra, I began, I care about you and the future we're building. But for that to work, it needs to be founded on complete honesty. I feel there have been some inconsistencies in your history lately, and it's making me feel uneasy. I anticipated a discussion, perhaps tears, maybe frustration. I did not expect the woman I loved to vanish, replaced by a cold, defiant stranger. She folded her arms, her face hardening into a mask of disdain. Fine, she said, her voice devoid of warmth. Okay, so I exaggerated. My dad isn't a surgeon, he's a pharmacist. We weren't wealthy, we were barely middle class. The locket was from an ex. I lied. So what? So what? The phrase was a bombshell that obliterated the entire framework of our relationship. It wasn't merely about the falsehoods. It was the sheer, breathtaking presumption of that question. The implication that my need for integrity was a character flaw, an inconvenience for her to manage. In that moment, all emotion drained from me, replaced by a crystal-clear, chilling realization. You don't try to repair a foundation that has proven to be sand. You abandon the site and move on. I met her steady gaze. I even managed a small, tight smile. You're right, I said softly. So what? The relief that washed over her face was evident. She believed she had prevailed. She embraced me, and I returned the hug, the scent of her perfume filling my lungs. But in my mind, The blueprint for our future was already shredded. A new one was being drafted. Project name, Operation Severance. The next morning, I emailed my boss and took a personal day. My first stop was a discreet office building downtown. I sat across from Mr. Fisher, a private investigator whose weary eyes belied the sharpness of his suit. I wrote a check for a $5,000 retainer. "I need to know who she truly is," I said, sliding her photo across the desk. Her real family history, her financial situation. And I especially want to know everything about the ex who gave her this locket, the man she claims was a stalker. Mr. Fisher took the check and the photo. "You'll have a preliminary report in a week." I walked out of that office into the bright sun. The grief was present, a cold weight in my stomach, but it was secondary. The project manager had taken control. Phase 1, discovery, was now in progress. Update 1. It has been 7 days of living a fabrication. I've been the ideal partner. I've feigned excitement for the Zillow listings she sent for our future home. I've listened and commiserated about her work troubles. I've existed within a relationship that, for me, is already over. Every moment has been a strain, a calculated performance, while awaiting the inevitable. The email from Mr. Fisher arrived last night. Subject, preliminary findings, S. Jensen. I waited until I heard the steady rhythm of Sandra's breathing from the bedroom. I took my laptop not to the bathroom, but to the small balcony, the cool night air feeling like a shock to my system. I opened the file. The reality was worse than I had anticipated. It was a systematic dismantling of the woman I thought I knew. Family. Her father is indeed a pharmacist, or was. His license was revoked 2 years ago for prescription fraud. He now works as a pharmacy technician under supervision. Her mother is a receptionist at a dental clinic. They reside in a rented trailer in a different state and have a long history of debt and a prior bankruptcy. Education. She has 2 completed semesters of community college to her name and an outstanding student loan for a degree she abandoned. The ex-fiancé. This was the crucial part. The stalker, Matthew, was her fiancé of 4 years. The A on the locket stands for Ashley, Sandra's middle name, which she never uses. Matthew was an electrician who had just launched his own small business. The report, citing public records and interviews, detailed a pattern of deliberate destruction. She convinced him to add her to his business credit cards to help manage expenses. She then accumulated over $70,000 in debt on luxury goods, spa treatments, and a vehicle she registered solely in her name. When he discovered the fraud and confronted her, she didn't just leave. She filed a false domestic violence report and obtained a temporary restraining order, fabricating the stalker narrative to isolate him from their mutual friends. The legal battle and the debt compelled him to dissolve his business and sell his truck. He was financially and reputationally devastated. I had to stop reading. I leaned my head against the cold railing of the balcony. It wasn't just anger I felt. It was a profound, sickening sense of pity. Not for her, but for him. For Matthew, and for the utter fool I had been. Her sense of entitlement since our conversation has been extreme. It's as if by forgiving her lies, I've granted her permission to demand more. Yesterday, she said, "That promotion you're getting should be enough for a down payment on the Colonial I like. We should make an offer. We deserve it. We deserve it." The same phrase a predator might utter before sinking its teeth into its prey. I just smiled and said, "Let's secure the promotion first, sweetie." The plan has progressed into the execution phase. I found a new apartment, a small, unadorned 1-bedroom in a high-security building across town. I signed the lease this morning. Operation Severance is scheduled for this Friday. She has a mandatory all-day company retreat, a perfect window. I've been packing in secret, a box of books here, a duffel bag of essential clothes there, all hidden in the back of my car or the deep recesses of the closet. She hasn't noticed a thing. She's too preoccupied planning a future that simply won't materialize. Update 2. It's done. I'm on an air mattress in my new, empty apartment. The silence is absolute. It's the sound of a project concluded, a terrible chapter closed. Yesterday was about logistics, not emotions. Sandra kissed me goodbye. "Don't forget to call the realtor about that house," she said, smiling. I smiled back. Have a great retreat. I watched her car drive away until it was just a tiny dot. I sent a text to the movers. We are a go. I began the purge. It was a systematic removal, my life being packed into cardboard. I didn't take anything we bought together. The sofa, the dining table, the bed, all hers, purchased with funds from the car Matthew's debt had paid for. I emptied the photo frames of our pictures and left the frames themselves. I took my espresso machine, my work monitor, my clothes, my books. The plan encountered its first obstacle, a real-world variable. As the movers were carrying my desk out, our next-door neighbor, Dorothy, opened her door. She's a retiree who adores Sandra, her face wrinkled in confusion. Paul, what on earth is going on? Are you two moving? My heart pounded. This wasn't in the plan. I had to improvise. Morning, Dorothy, I said, forcing a casual tone. No, nothing like that. Just finally getting around to moving my winter gear and old work files into a storage unit. Clearing out space, you know. Sandra's idea, actually. A little spring cleaning. She didn't look convinced. Oh, well, it seems like an awful lot of stuff for storage. She lingered, watching every box that passed. I knew she would text Sandra. The timeline had just been compromised. 11:30. The movers were gone. I did one last cold walkthrough. The apartment felt vast and wrong. Her presence was everywhere, but my absence was a gaping void. On her pillow, I placed the locket. It was the only thing of hers I touched, a silent admission that I knew everything. I then took the spare key she'd given me and laid it beside the locket. As I was about to walk out, my phone vibrated, a text from Sandra. Dorothy just sent me the weirdest text. Said you have movers. What is going on, Paul? Call me. The project was now critical. I didn't reply. I walked out, closed the door softly behind me, and drove away, without looking back. In my new empty apartment, the phone buzzed and rang relentlessly. I powered it off. I needed silence to complete the final step. I turned my laptop on, logged into my email, and composed a single, formal message. I sent it to her work address, knowing she wouldn't see it until she got back to a computer. Subject, lease, and belongings. Sandra, this email is to confirm I have vacated the apartment. All of my belongings have been removed. The lease is in your name, so you will have no issues with management. I know about Matthew. I know about the locket. I know about all of it. Do not contact me again. Paul. Then I methodically blocked her number, her social media profiles, and the numbers of her immediate family and closest friends. It wasn't about malice. It was about creating a sterile environment, a clean break. The storm is here. I accelerated the timeline, and now I just have to weather it. Final update. It has been a month, a long, quiet, and unsettling month. The fallout wasn't a single explosion as I'd expected. It was a series of aftershocks, information arriving in fragments that I had to piece together like an incident report. The first week was a siege. Calls from unknown numbers, emails to my work address from anonymous accounts, a friend request on LinkedIn from a profile that was clearly hers. I ignored it all. My silence was a wall, and she was flinging herself against it. About 10 days after I left, I received a call from her mother. I had her number blocked, but she used her husband's phone. I almost declined, but morbid curiosity got the better of me. Her tone wasn't angry this time. It was broken. Paul, she whispered, and I could hear her weeping. I received that email you sent. The report. Please, just tell me it's a lie. Tell me you made it all up because you were angry. I wish I could, I said, my voice flat. But it's all true. And you know it, or you wouldn't be calling me. You'd be calling a lawyer. There was a choked sob on the other end, then silence. She hung up. That was the first confirmation that the truth bomb had hit its target. The enablers were wavering. The second piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. 2 weeks ago, I checked the public court records database for the county where Matthew lives. It's a habit from my job, verifying permits and legal filings. I typed in her name, and there it was. A civil case filed 2 weeks prior. Matthew Jensen versus Sandra Ashley Jensen. The charge was fraud. My anonymous email had worked. He had his ammunition, and he was using it. A slow, grinding consequence was now in motion. The third piece came from Kimberly, her best friend. After my initial departure, she had sent me a barrage of furious texts, which I ignored. Then last week, I received a simple one-line email from her. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what I said. I asked her about Matthew. She told me to mind my own business. That was all the answer I needed. The social circle was fracturing, not in a dramatic fight, but in quiet, sad resignations. The final, most disturbing piece of the puzzle came last night. A call from an unknown number. It was Dorothy, the neighbor. Her voice was trembling. "Paul, I'm so sorry to bother you. I still had your number from that time the water heater broke. It's Sandra. Something awful has happened. An ambulance just took her away. She was screaming, just screaming in the hallway. The landlord said something about a complete breakdown." I felt a cold dread wash over me. I thanked her for letting me know and hung up. Her world, constructed on a scaffold of lies, had been systematically dismantled. Not by me, but by the truth. The legal case from Matthew exposed her past. Her parents' confrontation, which I later heard was brutal, removed her family safety net. Her friends' questions, sparked by my information, dissolved her social support. She was left alone in an apartment she couldn't afford, with nothing but the wreckage of her own deception. The locket on the pillow wasn't a threat. It was a mirror, and she couldn't tolerate the reflection. I don't feel triumphant. I don't feel happy. I feel a profound, grim sense of finality. A project manager's cold satisfaction in seeing a flawed, unstable structure finally collapse under its own weight. Her breakdown wasn't my revenge. It was an inevitable, catastrophic system failure. I'm moving forward. My apartment is beginning to feel like a home. The silence is no longer unsettling. It's peaceful. The project of Sandra is concluded. The final postmortem report is complete. It's time to archive the files and start drawing up plans for something new, something built on solid ground.